A man discovers a lion on the brink of death, and the animal's reaction stuns the world. The skeletal remains of what had once been a magnificent African lion lay motionless under the scorching Botswana sun. His breathing was so shallow that veterinarian Dr. Kevin Richardson initially thought the animal was already dead. Every rib showed through the lion's dull, matted coat, and his powerful frame had been reduced to skin and bones after what appeared to be weeks of starvation. Dr. Richardson had been conducting anti-poaching patrols in the region. While navigating the remote Kalahari with his guide to Bogomole, they spotted the dying animal beside a dried-up watering hole. What they found defied explanation. A full-grown male lion, around 8 years old, lying alone in the middle of nowhere, too weak to lift his massive head. In 30 years of wildlife work, I've never seen a lion in this condition still clinging to life, Richardson told reporters. The lion's eyes were sunken into his skull, and his once golden mane had become a dirty, tangled mess. Open sores covered his body, likely from lying motionless for days, and his breathing was labored and irregular. Richardson knelt beside the dying predator, expecting some sign of aggression or fear. Instead, the lion did something that stopped him cold. He slowly turned his head and made direct eye contact. Not the threatening stare of a wild predator, but the pleading gaze of a creature who somehow understood that help had arrived. It was like he was asking me to save him, Richardson recalled. I've worked with hundreds of big cats, but I've never seen that level of awareness, that human-like plea for help in an animal's eyes. The lion's condition was critical. Severe dehydration had turned his gums white, and his body. Temperature was dangerously low despite the desert heat. Richardson estimated he had gone without food for at least 3 weeks and water for several days. Most concerning were the lion's hind legs, completely paralyzed. Likely the reason he had been unable to hunt or reach water. Richardson made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Instead of euthanizing the suffering animal, he chose to attempt an unprecedented field rescue. Every fiber of my veterinary training told me this lion was beyond saving, Richardson admitted. But something in his eyes, some spark of will to live, made me believe he deserved a fighting chance. Working quickly in the fading daylight, Richardson inserted an IV line to begin emergency fluid therapy. The lion remained completely still, as if he understood the human beside him was there to help. Richardson administered pain medication, antibiotics and electrolytes while Mole radioed for helicopter evacuation to the nearest wildlife facility, over 200 miles away. As darkness fell over the Kalahari, Richardson made the difficult decision to spend the night beside the lion, monitoring his vitals and continuing fluid therapy. The desert temperature dropped rapidly, and Richardson covered the lion with emergency blankets, positioning himself as a windbreak against the cold wind. Throughout the night, the lion's eyes never left Richardson's face. Every time he checked the IV or adjusted the blankets, the lion would respond with soft, almost grateful sounds. Not wild predator vocalizations, but something closer to the contented rumbling of a house cat. It was surreal, Richardson later described. Here I was, alone in the desert with a dying lion who should have been terrified of human contact. Instead, he seemed to trust me completely. He somehow knew I was there to help. At dawn, the helicopter evacuation began. It was a risky operation. Richardson had to sedate the lion while maintaining his IV during the flight to Mount Animal Hospital. Dr. Sarah Tullhagel, the facility's head veterinarian, was skeptical when she received the call. "Kevin, you're talking about a full-grown male lion who's been starving for weeks," she argued. "Even if we save him, he'll never be releasable. He can't hunt or defend himself." But when the helicopter landed and she saw the lion in person, her medical instincts overrode her doubts. The lion was indeed dying, but his vitals had slightly stabilized thanks to Richardson's intervention. Even more astonishing, the lion showed no aggression. Surrounded by humans in an unfamiliar environment, he remained calm. His behavior contradicted everything known about wild lions. As Dr. Tullhagel documented in her medical report, He allowed us to transfer him to the surgical table, accepted an oxygen mask, and stayed calm throughout. It was as if he understood we were trying to save his life. Diagnostic tests revealed the full extent of his condition: a severe spinal injury, likely from a fall or an attack, had paralyzed his hindquarters. Weeks without hunting led to extreme malnutrition and organ complications. His survival odds were less than 10%. The surgery to address his spinal injury lasted 8 hours. Richardson stayed in the operating room the entire time. Even under anesthesia, the lion's presence seemed calmer with him nearby. When the animal began to wake, his eyes immediately searched for Richardson's face. Recovery was slow and uncertain. Richardson named the lion Tao, after the Setswana word for lion. He took extended leave to personally oversee Tao's rehabilitation. He set up a cot in the recovery room and spent 3 weeks sleeping beside the lion, monitoring his progress and providing comfort. What unfolded during those weeks astonished the entire medical team. Tao began exhibiting behaviors never before documented in wild lions. He would grow visibly anxious when Richardson left, even for a few minutes, and when he returned, Tao would make soft chuffing sounds, trying to nuzzle his hand despite his weakness. "It was like watching a bond form between family members," said Nurse Jennifer Mormey. Tao responded to Richardson's voice, calmed at his touch, and seemed to find peace in his presence, in ways that defied scientific explanation. As Tao regained strength, his personality began to shine. Despite being a wild predator, he was gentle with Richardson and the staff. He learned to accept physical therapy, seemingly understanding it was helping him heal. The breakthrough came in the 4th week. During a routine check, Tao did something that left everyone speechless. He lifted his tail and flexed his back paws. The spinal injury was healing. Sensation was returning. Dr. Tulhagel called it medically inexplicable. That type of damage usually meant permanent paralysis. Yet somehow, through what she described as an extraordinary will to live, Tao was coming back. With intensive care and emotional support from Richardson, Tao was defying every medical expectation. Video footage of Tao's first attempts to stand went viral, shared millions of times around the world. Images of Richardson supporting the dumb lion as he took his first wobbly steps moved viewers to tears. Donations began pouring in from across the globe to support Tao's ongoing recovery. 6 months after his rescue, Tao had made a recovery that veterinary experts called nothing short of miraculous. The lion who had once been paralyzed and starving in the Kalahari Desert was now walking, running, and displaying the strength and vitality of a healthy adult male. But what happened next would capture the world's imagination in a way no one could have predicted. Richardson had constructed a specialized enclosure at his wildlife research facility, tailored to Tao's unique needs. It was designed to offer a safe, comfortable retirement for a lion who could never be released back into the wild. The plan was simple: provide Tao with security and peace. But Tao had other ideas. One warm October morning, as Richardson entered the enclosure for their daily interaction, Tao approached him slowly and gently took Richardson's wrist in his massive jaws, not biting but holding with the care of a lioness carrying her cub. Then Tao began leading him toward the gate. His intention was unmistakable. He wanted to leave, not to escape, but to go somewhere, and he wanted Richardson to come with him. At the gate, Tao released Richardson's wrist and sat down, locking eyes with him in a way that seemed to say, "Trust me." Against protocol and professional advice, Richardson made a decision that would redefine wildlife rehabilitation. He opened the gate. What happened next was captured on camera and broadcast, live around the globe. Tao walked calmly beside Richardson as they exited the facility grounds. He showed no desire to run, no signs of aggression. Instead, he appeared to have a destination in mind. For nearly 2 miles, they moved together through the African bush, Tao occasionally glancing back to ensure Richardson was still with him. News helicopters hovered above, broadcasting the astonishing sight of a man walking freely beside a fully grown wild lion. Their destination came into view, a small pride of 3 lionesses with cubs struggling to survive the harsh drought. Richardson recognized them. He had monitored this pride during his anti-poaching patrols. It was the same area where he had found Tao months earlier. What happened next left wildlife experts speechless. Tao approached the pride and immediately displayed protective behavior, positioning himself between the lionesses and any potential threats. He made soft vocalizations that seemed to reassure both the pride and Richardson. Miraculously, the lionesses did not react with fear. They remained calm, allowing Richardson to come close. It was clear Tao had brought him there with purpose. The pride was in trouble. Drought had dried up their water sources and hunting was scarce. The lionesses were struggling to feed their cubs. Tao wasn't just expressing gratitude for being safety. He was asking Richardson to help his family. Over the following weeks, Richardson set up a water station and feeding program for the pride, working closely with local conservation authorities to ensure their survival. Throughout the effort, Tao remained by Richardson's side, acting as a bridge between 2 worlds, the wild and the human. Footage of a wild lion leading a human to help his pride became the most watched wildlife video in internet history. Dr. Jane Goodall called it the most extraordinary display of cross-species cooperation and communication ever documented. Eventually, for his own safety, Tao was returned to the facility, but the bond between him and Richardson remained unbreakable. Tao lived another 7 years, becoming a symbol of hope and an ambassador for lion conservation. His story raised millions for wildlife protection. When Tao passed away peacefully in 2019, Richardson was there, holding the same lion who had once been found dying alone in the desert. Tao's legacy lived on, not just in the conservation programs his story inspired, but in the hearts of millions around the world. He didn't just survive, Richardson said at Tao's memorial. He chose to use his second chance to help others. That's a lesson any human would be proud to learn. Tao taught the world that the line between human and animal consciousness is far thinner than we ever imagined.